Abbie, welcome to Real Pod. I'm so happy to have you.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I literally feel like I watched you and Josh's come up in 2020 because that's around the same time I was getting on TikTok as well. I wasn't on it when it was Musically. Were you?
No, no.
Right. So it was this time where this app just started booming and I was like, what's going on over here? I feel like there's so much opportunity. I had been doing YouTube and Instagram, but correct me if I'm wrong, was this like the first platform you were experimenting with and starting to gain traction and grow?
Yeah. So before 2020, I was modeling full time, and Josh was like always like, you could you could be an Instagram girl. Like he always encouraged me because he's like, you love taking photos, being in front of the camera, and you're like, I'm very personable. Like I love talking. And he's like, try to do that. I was like, there's no way. I personally never watched YouTube ever before this world, like before TikTok. I didn't like I obviously I knew of like James Charles and like Emma Chamberlain, but I personally never consumed YouTube. So I didn't know what like an influencer was. Um, and I had like 8,000 followers on Instagram, like through modeling. And I was like, that's huge. And then obviously modeling, when 2020 hit, modeling kind of stopped for me. And then I knew of Musically and I knew of TikTok. I loved Vine. I was a Vine addict. I was like the biggest consumer of Vine, but I never posted. And then when, you know, life slowed down a bit, I was like, let me download this TikTok app and like watch. And then I had one modeling job where I was like the old one. I was like 21. And all these girls were like 16, 18. And they were like TikToking in the corner, like making TikToks. And it was dancing back then. Like it was pretty much all dancing. I was like, what are you guys doing? And they showed me how to make my first TikTok. And that is what I did. And I woke up and it went viral.
Wow.
And the rest is from there because I was like, what is this app? But it was what, March 2020, April, where it was like everyone was just downloading this app and life completely changed from that.
Oh my gosh. I wonder where they are now. They're like, we made Abbie Herbert's first
No,
TikTok.
I still follow her. She's amazing. She's still on TikTok. Yeah, it was crazy.
But then prior to TikTok, you grew up wanting to be
Yeah.
a model.
Yes, I was modeling full time. I literally have a photo. I wrote it in sixth grade. It was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was said, I want to be on America's Next Top Model. And my mom was like, hey, like if this is something you want to do, like let's try it. I'm from Ohio. I'm in a very small town in Ohio where there's no like big city. The
Hmm.
closest biggest city is Pittsburgh. So there's a modeling agency in Pittsburgh, and I just submitted photos online. I got signed when I was a freshman in high school. So I was like 13, 14. But like back then I wasn't really booking any jobs. It was just like one job here and there. Like my first job was a wig company. I was modeling wigs, like gray wigs that my like grandma was ordering catalogs. And I remember being so excited. Like I took these catalogs to school, being like, look at me, I'm modeling wigs. So it was just like really cool. And then after high school, I went off to New York, tried that whole thing. Didn't work out. It was very hard. And then yeah.
That's such a small world. My husband Max was just
Yeah.
in Pittsburgh last weekend. He used to play
Yeah.
football there at Pitt, and then he just called their game for the CW. So I used to go
Oh,
visit
really?
him, and it was such a fun city with like all the bridges and the water, and
Yes.
just it was some of my happiest memories visiting him there.
Yeah, I love Pittsburgh's great. I feel like when they see us out, people like think we're unicorns because they're shocked that we're like in Pittsburgh. But I'm like, yeah, this is where, Josh is born and raised. This is my city. So
I
we've never left.
feel like that has to be so nice because when I'm out here in LA as a content creator as well, and it
Mm.
can just be a lot like living in it. We love it now, but I do see totally the appeal and how special it must be to be out in a city like that where I can't think of another like household content creator that's in that city.
I think we get noticed a lot more in Pittsburgh because people just don't assume that we're here. But I think like when I travel for New York or LA, I'm like, this just isn't real life to me.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine like would it be fun to like live in New York and LA? Yes, but like
Yeah.
I just can't imagine like I'm going to Aldi, I'm going to Whole Foods, I'm taking Poppy to school, we're going to gymnastics class down the road. It's very not this like luxurious lifestyle. Like when I go to those premieres or those events, like that's, I say like, not my real life. And then this is real life.
It's giving like Hannah Montana, Miley Cyrus, and
Yes.
I love that, and parts of me envy it. I really appreciate though throughout the years, you and Josh have been really candid throughout the years about some of the moments that have been less glamorous. And I remember when Josh opened up about his anxiety, and I thought that was really powerful, especially as a guy. And then when you opened up about your previous, as you've said, addiction to alcohol, and I feel like that has to impact a lot of people. At what part in your journey were you both like, hey, let's get honest about some of these things that we've been through?
No, and it's crazy you brought that up because we haven't filmed a YouTube video in so long just because life's crazy. But I just filmed today was talking about like why I'm sober and how I'm sober because I felt like I talked about it so much in the beginning. And then like people will bring it up now and I'm like, oh wait, you might be a new follower, or you might not know. But yeah, I am just an open book. I will tell anyone anything. I'm just
Great.
I'm an overshare. That's just who I am at my core. So it just never felt weird to not share. We actually like as a couple and as a family have had to like, we're like, oh, okay, we have to sit back and take a step back. Maybe we don't need to share this with the world. But I'm like, if I can help just one person know that like being sober is very fun and a great lifestyle. I started drinking very young, small town, Ohio. Wasn't a lot to do. I don't encourage it. And I never learned how to drink properly. I only learned when you're young, you're just like, let's go crazy. Let's just black out, basically. And I didn't learn how to drink. So when I met Josh, I was like at the worst stage of my life because I thought I was going to have this beautiful modeling career in New York City. And then I was dropped from my agents because I was too big and I was a size 0. So that was like a whole thing I had to mentally go through. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go to Ohio State and party and do what everyone else does because that's what all these other people were doing. And then I met Josh. We started dating and he just thought like, oh, she's just in a party phase. He saw all this potential in me that I wasn't fully giving my full potential because I was just consuming my world around when I was going to drink, when we were going to go out, when I was going to black out, because then I could just forget about everything else. And we just had one really bad night where he was like, I love you so much, but I can't support this. If this is the lifestyle you want, go right ahead, or I will help you get on the right track and we will figure this out together. And literally that day I stopped drinking. That next day, after I stopped drinking, I physically got healthy, then mentally got healthy. And then I signed with Wilhelmina. I signed with Next. I was traveling all over the world. And next I was in the south of France modeling for Roxy. And it was all just from stopping drinking. Like I just got healthy. And I realized like, wow, how much of that was holding me back.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all because of Josh, because he was like, I can't make you make these decisions, but like, I'll be here or I won't be here. And obviously I made the right decision.
How special that you had someone who saw your potential and had the courage to kind of say that to you. I think we run into that issue a lot with our friends and our loved ones. And I had brought this up to my friends the other day. I was like, when is it appropriate to like really be curt with someone because you love them and say, hey, this is not you. This isn't good for you. You shouldn't do this. Because sometimes it's like, hey, it's not my life. I don't want to change the course of someone's and have them get mad at me or regret it. How do you know to do that? And how powerful that now your life partner did that.
And that was like early stages of dating. Like I honestly don't even know how he saw that potential in me because I was like our first date, I blacked out. And he was just like, thank God he took care of me. He helped me. But the fact that he stayed and saw potential, I was like, okay, he's a good guy. He sees that because I could either really have scared someone off or he could have just jumped in and been like, yeah, let's party, let's go. And then really bad if we're both going down that route. So, and with Josh, he's very vocal about his anxiety and what he goes through daily. I personally never experienced someone with anxiety, or at least that was vocal about it. And when we first started dating, he was always talking about going to the doctors. He had a doctor's appointment. I'm like, wow, this guy goes to the doctors a lot. And then he, had the courage to open up and be like, well, it's actually my therapist. I go to therapy. And I was like, wow, like I never, once again, small town Ohio, didn't really talk about that or really know anyone that was doing those things, especially from a male. And I was like, that's great. Like if that's what you got to have to go through. And he slowly peeled back of like, oh, he can't just go to the grocery store by himself, or oh, he doesn't like to go to the mall. I love going to the mall. Like that's my favorite thing to do on the weekends. But if it's a crowd, he doesn't do crowds. And then when we first started dating, he got the opportunity to go on tour with the chicks. And then I found out a lot. Like I was like, oh, he's a singer. He like loves to go on stage. He has severe stage fright and anxiety of performing in front of people. So that was a whole thing. And then I learned he doesn't do airplanes. He doesn't do elevators. He does like there's a lot to him. And at first I was like, as someone who doesn't experience it, I'm like, just get on the airplane, just do it. And I was like, oh, it's just you can't just do that. So we've come a long way as a couple, as someone who needs to support him. But I do think we are really good with each other because I do push him. Like I don't just like, okay, no, don't ever go on an airplane again. I'm like, what are the steps we can do to get you on an airplane? And he's done so well. We've gone on a few trips. And that is why also a lot of people ask, like, why are you always traveling by yourself? Well, that's why.
Yeah.
And it works for us because he stays back with the kids. I know the kids are taken care of and have their dad at home. And then I'm able to go off and work. And I think we work very well together that way. So yeah, there's a lot to Josh that a lot of people I don't think realize.
I think that's so special though that both of you recognized things about each other that you knew could be overcome or worked through, and you didn't just give up and you kept going. And I have so much I want to ask about that, especially when it comes to social media. But you said something that stuck out to me. You said, I was drinking to forget. What were you trying to forget?
Oh gosh, I had a high school boyfriend that I thought I was gonna marry and be with the rest of my life. And he was a year older, so we went off to college, we broke up, and I thought my life was over. And that is when I heavily started drinking. It was like my senior year. And that's when I was blacking out. And it was the high school back and forth, like we'd block each other and then we would talk again. And you know how that goes. So it emotionally really, really, really messed me up. And I thought I was never going to find someone that would love me again. I thought I would never find anyone like him. And then that went on for like 2 years, 2.5, 3 years of just this toxic relationship. And nothing on him as a person. He's, I'm sure, doing very well right now, but it just, we weren't compatible together. And that is why when I got drunk, I was so mean and so sad because then all of those emotions came out. Cause like during the day I had to just get by of like, oh gosh, is he going to text me or am I going to text him? And then I would drink, we would black out, and then all those feelings and emotions came out. So that's what I was trying to forget. And then when I met Josh and when I was happy, I was still drinking and I couldn't figure out why, even though I was happy when I was drinking, all this just sadness and emotion came out. And then I think at the same time, I had that dream of being a model and then making it in New York. And then my agent's telling me, oh, you're too big. And I was never told that my entire life. I was in high school, I was drinking shakes to gain weight, to like put on muscle, and then completely changed to that. There was just much going on that I didn't know how to deal with. And the only way was to drink and black out, because then I could just cry and not remember it the next day and then be embarrassed about how I acted.
I wonder if you have this same feeling where right now it's like you're married, you have your children, you have a home, and you feel like some of those big questions in life you have answered. And the situation you're describing is a time in our lives where there's so much we don't have answered. We don't know who we're going to marry, where we're going to end up, what we're going to do. And the pressure of that can feel so overwhelming, especially to teenagers, when you have parents putting pressure on you or friends who seem to be accomplishing things. And it can sometimes feel like if I don't get an A in this class, my whole life won't work out. Or if this person dumps me, and it makes my heart hurt, because obviously we know now everything will work out and it's going to be okay. Yeah. But like when I think about even the younger version of myself who felt lost too, I didn't struggle with addiction, but I struggled with an eating disorder and I was depressed, and I just, you feel the weight of the world, and it's so sad.
No, it's so sad. I I look back now, I'm like, I just wanted to be loved so bad, but I was so loved at home. I have the best parents. I My friend group was great, but obviously I had to get away from them because they were all drinking and could handle it, but I obviously couldn't. Yeah, no, and I just, like I said, I just wanted to be loved so bad. And I'm like, I didn't realize why. And then I was trying to fill it all in because it's like, oh yeah, my friends were in healthy relationships and good relationships. And I was like, well, I'm single. This isn't great. Like you said, I didn't have the answers until I met Josh. And I was like, oh, this is what it's like to be treated with respect and treated as like a human being and finding like a real relationship. You don't know what that real relationship is until you're actually in it
Mm-hmm.
and you know.
And once you were in this healthy relationship with Josh, and obviously now he's your husband and you have this beautiful life
Yeah.
together, did you have another like awakening of, wait, I have this man and he's my soulmate and I'm super happy, but oh my gosh, I still have these issues like on my own that I need to figure out because that Prince Charming doesn't solve everything.
Exactly. And it's like I'm realizing my brain works different than Josh. I always say Josh is the dreamer. He manifests. He's all about it. I'm very much in the moment type person. I can't think ahead. I really can't. As much as I can try, I'm just like real time in the moment. So I think he's helped me realize, oh, you can manifest and dream of those things instead of being like, no, this is it. This is what's happening. I'll say everything for me worked out when I just stopped drinking. I haven't really had to worry about those things that I was worrying about before. Now that I cut the alcohol out and it's
Yeah.
just worked for me.
And did you go to AA or anything, or were you able to?
No, I just did it with Josh. I think it helped that he was out of that college party stage. We do have a little age difference. So when he met me, he just graduated college. I think that helped that he was in that stage of life of like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to the bars and party every weekend. So yeah, I think that helped a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I relate in the sense
yeah,
that I really struggled with body image and had an eating disorder. And then when I learned about intuitive eating and I read this book and then I like started to try it, like a lot clicked for me. Like my personality
yeah,
is very much, if it makes sense, A plus B equals C. And I'm really
yeah,
definitive. And trust me, that has
yeah.
its weaknesses for sure. But I relate to like, I'm causing this problem. I suddenly discover the answers. And it hasn't
Yeah,
been like, oh, I've never had a toxic thought about my body or food since. But for the most part, like,
yeah,
yeah, I've been grateful that has been my experience because a lot of people they have
yeah.
to go to AA every single week. They
Yes.
have to go to
Yeah.
treatment for their eating
Mhm.
disorder, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I have a very addictive personality, and it definitely is like something I'm aware of. Like saying like even after my C-sections, I was like, I can't take this medication. I might like it too much. And I think that's why I love social media. I got it. I'm addicted to creating that content and enjoy it and it's good for me. But I'm very much aware I do have that type of personality where it's like it's not even worth it for me to have one drink because I don't know if I can stop myself,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But I am very grateful that I was able to control it and was able to stop it. But I feel like that was very much because Josh was with me. Like I wasn't dealing with someone that was like, well, I want to go out and party. Well, I want to go out and drink. Um, so I think that helped a lot.
Something I was curious about as you and Josh create content together is, you know,
Yeah.
building a business and a brand where now your marriage is involved. And it seems like you guys probably had these big conversations where you talked about your getting sober and helped him with his anxiety. So you guys had obviously the experience in your relationship to deal with conflict and obstacles. So as your platform's growing, you're gaining millions of followers. And now it's like your relationship is content. How did you guys
Mhm.
navigate that and like turn on date night and then
Yeah.
film date night and then figure that out?
I mean, it was very, I will say, kind of difficult in the beginning because TikTok was so new. It was so new to me. And I, once again, have that addictive personality where I was just like, oh my gosh, I could film this, and this all day long. And I loved filming. And then Josh was like, because Josh was the content in the very beginning. He was, the pranks and the couple's reaction. So I had to also respect him where he's like, okay, I don't want to film right now. But luckily Josh was pretty much on board for most of the part when he realized this could be a career and we can financially survive on this. So I think once we realized we can have a future with it, it clicked more with him. But it wasn't such a big change for us because he's a musician putting himself online. I was already kind of doing that with modeling. Obviously, just no one knew who I was, but I was familiar with putting my face out there. So it wasn't like something super new for us, other than just creating content, which was different. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's why it was more of an easier flow than maybe most couples who completely never put themselves online and now they have millions of people watching them.
Yeah. My best friend, I don't know if you've seen her content, Aubrey,
Mhm.
but her and her fiance, Aubrey and Wood, they've gone like
Yeah.
really viral recently in the past few months. And now they're doing it full time. And that's definitely been something they're like cautious about and thinking of, right? Is like, okay, how do we do this together, but then also protect ourselves? I don't know if I'm sure you've seen the trend that's like, we listen and we don't judge.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
just did that with my husband and we had so much fun filming it. We were kind of roasting each other. I put it out. This is literally, I think this is yesterday or the day before. And on Instagram, it's doing really well. Like our followers know us. They're like, ha ha ha,
Yeah.
Max, this, Vic, this. TikTok right away. He doesn't like you. This is not the flex you think it is. Oh my God, red flags. Like this isn't okay. Like, and I don't
Yeah.
I do couples content, but not a ton. So I was starting to get really anxious. Like, oh my God, I don't want people thinking bad things about my husband. Like, I mean, I'm sure that this is giving you so many thoughts of like the videos and the pushback you've received. So can you just like
Oh my
tell me about
gosh.
it?
I don't read comments after the first 10 minutes because I'm like the first 10 minutes they're your followers and they're the people that actually enjoy you and love you. And then after that, who knows where it goes on the internet. So that's what I've learned. Yeah, no, this is what I say. As long as I'm okay with the content, as long as Josh is okay with the content and it's good for us and we know our truth and our family's okay and our friends are okay, I don't care what anyone else says or thinks. Because no matter what you do, there will always be one person that will be the opposite. And as we know, with the internet, people enjoy being mean, unfortunately. Like that just is what it is. And I've kind of, a lot of my content for a while, I called it trolling the trolls. I say instead of Poppy being 3 years old, I say she's 40 some months. And
Yeah.
it gets them every time. So I'm like, if they're going to call something out, I'll just give it to them to just get the anger out. So
Right.
I do that for silly things. People are
Yeah.
just mean,
I
no matter
know.
what you do. But obviously, if it's truly affecting you, or but you know your truth.
I know. It's honestly like now that I sit here. So what I ended up doing, I really had to think about it because I was like, I had the same thing where I was like, I know my truth. Like we're
Yeah.
very much whatever. I know that. And then I was like, we were going to the movies with my dad and it was like starting to go viral in the negative way. And so then I was like, am I even gonna be able to enjoy this movie? Am I gonna be panicking? Like, so I was like, I'm just gonna take it off TikTok because that platform can be volatile, but I'm gonna leave it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that was like me pushing
Yeah.
myself a little bit. But now that I sit here with you, I'm like, oh, I hate that they got to me and I wish I let it go and I got the views.
But at the end of the day, like you did what was best for you. And I don't get me wrong, I have posted stuff recently where I was like, could this be taken the wrong way? And if I saw one comment, I was like, oh, I don't even want it to go that route. I'll just remove it because there are trends and things that we do put out there where it's harmless, but maybe it could actually upset someone and be offensive. But I'm sure what you said or did was not
Right.
offensive or could upset someone. And I mean, do you don't know how many times people message me, who's going to tell her about her husband? Or like they'll do like the nail emoji. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like he's just acting, he's being funny, and who cares,
That's the thing that I don't think people know is like we know we're filming a comedy video, like we're bidding it up.
Yes.
Like in this video,
Josh is very much aware that the camera is up, and
oh,
I had to tell him about the video. I had to tell him about the trend, or half the time he's commenting because he's on IG Reels. He's on Reels. He's a Reels guy,
he's
and he's
behind.
constant. And he's coming up with the idea. So no,
Yeah.
that's where it's like I say, as long as you know your truth, that you're happy with it, and your husband's okay with it, who cares?
Yeah.
Because someone's going to say something no matter what.
Yeah, so true. So when we were filming this, one of the things was like, we listen and we don't judge. Like and he said, I know I told you I wasn't gonna drink on our wedding day, but I had 3 beers and a shot. And I was like, and I genuinely was like shocked, and it was like whatever. And then when we were
Yeah.
done filming, he was like, I only had 2 beers. He's like, I didn't have a shot, but I was just like bidding it up. And like, which is funny. But then
Yeah.
people are like, the disrespect that he would take a shot when you told him. And then I have to get into like, that's not true. Whatever. I
Yeah.
didn't want to deal with it. But this
It's
brings
just not worth it. It's not
yeah,
worth it.
but I did have a question for you because I think about this is
Yeah.
you obviously are a mama too, and you do everything so beautifully. I think about like, do I take maternity leave? But that's kind of the best time to post content. Everyone's
Yeah.
excited. Like, how did you navigate that,
No,
and how does it work
I
now?
I will say, if I have a third, I will try to take maternity leave. I did not do that with either of my, I actually filmed a brand deal in the hospital with Jagger, which now looking back, I was like, I was crazy. I was crazy. I love the partnership. I love the brand. It was it was a necklace with his name on it. And I loved it, but I definitely wish I would have thought it through and maybe done it like a week or two later at home. But I needed to get it out, and that was what the brand wanted. But we'll have better next time. But like I said, I did it. I enjoyed it. I love working. I love what I do. I love making content. I love filming. Like I would have done that no matter what. But now being almost 2 years postpartum, I really was like, oh, I wasn't yelling to just yell. I was probably going through postpartum rage or postpartum, and these things where I didn't realize what was happening. We had a lot. After Poppy, I was fine just because that was so new and fresh. But at postpartum with Jagger, he was born. Then we were moving. We built our home. Like there was a lot of things happening where I just was kind of like, it was very blurry now looking back. But if we would ever have a third, I would definitely take it slow and really be in the moment because I feel like I was just really rushing it all. But yeah, there's no rule book to all this because you're self-employed, you're working on your own time. I do know some creators that took 2 months off, and I'm like, oh, that was probably very smart of them. Maybe I should have done something like that. But I'm also such a talker and real time person. I want to share everything with everyone about my experience. So you got to find what works for you.
Yeah, I feel like it's about doing what you want on your own terms. Like I can't see
Yes.
myself not wanting to post like you. I love it. It's really fun.
Yeah.
But then yeah, a
Yeah.
brand deal and getting approval and stress on someone else's timeline is probably like not ideal when you're in the hospital.
I will say I did push back on that one. That was hard, but when you sign a contract and when you have the responsibility, I did it. But looking back for the future, there's a third. There will be no contracts around
Yeah.
around birth.
In the same vein of like balancing all this as a mom, how have you figured it out? Because I feel like our job doesn't turn off. Like you could do something on a Saturday,
Yeah.
a Sunday evening, you're cooking dinner, something
Yeah.
funny happens. Also, same with motherhood. I'm like, any insight you can share for me?
I have help. That's my biggest thing when I tell people. I don't want anyone to look at what I'm doing and thinking I'm doing it on my own. I can't. I I realized with Poppy right after I got home from the hospital. I love the hospital stay with Poppy. It was the best thing ever. You're on cloud nine. I got home that day and I just cried and sobbed because it was just me, Josh, and Poppy. And I did not like that feeling. I love Josh so much. He's my person, but I could not be alone. I needed my mom. I needed my mom. I truly did. Me and my mom are very, very close. I called her. I said, Mom, I'm very happy. I love Poppy. I love Josh. I love myself, but I can't stop crying. I just don't want to be alone right now. And since that day, it's been very rare that I've been truly like alone. She came and stayed that night. Then by 6 months old, I was like, I can't work and I can't have a toddler crawling baby. And I grew up in daycare. I went to daycare by the time I was like 3 months old. There's nothing wrong with daycare. I was there from literally 3 months old to sixth grade, but daycare's expensive. So I called my mom. I said, hey, I'm looking for help for Poppy. I'm like, I'll either do daycare or would you potentially go part-time? She was a nurse for 20 some years. And she was like, I think I could go part-time. I was like, yep, I will pay you what pay the salary because what I would put into daycare. And then she was with us, and that was with her living in Ohio. So she was commuting part-time with us, and she was with us for like 6 months. And before Poppy was a year, I was like, can you quit your job? I will pay you the salary of what you made at work to come work for us and be full-time with Poppy. And it all worked out. And she was with us full-time. And then right before Jagger was born, I was like, she was still commuting from Ohio. I was like, how about you move next door to me? So I moved my mom, my dad, they live right down the road from us. So I have my mom here. She's with us literally Tuesday to basically Sunday. Like her work hours are Tuesday to Friday. She's here from 8 to 3. And by 3:30, I'm calling her like, hey, what are you guys doing? What are you and dad doing?
Right. To just like hang out then.
That's just the relationship I have. So I just have to get that out there because I don't want anyone to think that I'm doing this alone. I could not be also with Josh here as well, but my mom is with us all, like pretty much all the time to help with the kids. And then, I just ask for help because it's really hard. It's really hard.
I love that you pay your mom. I feel like I've seen that kind of stuff because I've seen like when men used to go out and in traditional gender roles and the woman would stay home and the woman wouldn't make any money and have nothing to her name. It's like you're a housekeeper, you're a chef, you're a nanny, you're all these things that would require money, but it's just assumed that it should be like given labor. So that's really cool.
No, because my parents, they can't retire. They need to work. And I was like, okay, I either ask my mom or I either hire, someone that's not family member, which sometimes that works out for people. Like I know some of my friends were like, I could not have my mom or I could not have my mother-in-law. And for me, it's complete opposite. I wanted my mom. I want my mother-in-law. I want family. Like my sister, like I'm trying to move my sister up here to like just be a big family unit. So that's how it works for us. And like I said, I'm always asking for help. I haven't figured it out. I mean, I'm still to this day like, how am I doing this? How am I making deadlines? How am I making content? And I feel like the number one confusion with us is I feel like people think I'm constantly filming. And I'm not. There are creators right now, I think, that have gotten popular on TikTok that vlog. They have that vlog lifestyle. They're filming all day. That's not, I make silly little 15-second clip videos that Josh and I'm like, okay, we have 10 minutes. Let's go upstairs. Let's film this and be done. So I feel like that's a big confusion for a lot of people with us. We're not that vlogging family. So we're not constantly filming.
Yeah. Is it so surreal to be from a small town with a big dream and like now you get to pay your mom a salary and you have this beautiful house that is stunning.
It's unreal. It's unreal. Thank you.
Are they also proud of you? Like it's such a cool story.
It is. And I think my mom's just grateful that my mom had to put me in daycare at the early, 12 weeks or so. I don't even know how, I was so young and she had to work. And I still to this day, I'm like, Mom, how did you do that? Because I'm so privileged to kind of make my work schedule. Obviously, I have deadlines and things, but it's flexible. I can't imagine having to drop the kids off, go work a job and then pick them up and then cook, clean. Like my mom did it all. And I'm just like, everyone that does that it's truly, it's incredible. It is. That's why moms are the best. Moms are so amazing because you can't be selfish. Yeah. You cannot be selfish. And I think my mom, she's living out that kind of stay-at-home mom dreams that she probably wish she could have done. Now she's watching her grandkids get raised and she's able to be with us all day and she just loves it. So It's really great that I'm able to have that.
I would imagine that knowing what you've told me, that's the dream for her right now is you're getting paid to be with your grandkids and your daughter as opposed to having to fit that time in while making your money somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well, Abbie, I love talking to you. You're so down to earth. Of course you are.
Thank you.
I hope to maybe run into you at some LA, New York thing if it ever happens.
I know. As long as that's my thing is if I don't leave the house when I'm pregnant. So because I don't have any plans of being pregnant anytime soon. Maybe. I don't know. That's
you never know.
So hopefully soon, because then if I'm pregnant, you won't see me for a year and a half. And then I'll come back out.
Okay. Yeah. We have lots of time, fortunately. But then maybe I'll be pregnant.
Yes. Yes, we can do it together. You never know. We
Love
can do it
that. Well,
together.
thank you so much, Abbie. This was so fun to
Yeah,
talk to you. Rooting for you guys, and can't wait to watch the
thank
vlog you did
you.
on your sobriety journey.